Hello everybody, welcome to Ageless Rock, a channel for megalithic fans with megalithic lands. Today, we are going to sail in the Polynesian part of the Pacific Ocean. We are going to check out the mysterious Marquesas Island. This island is so remote that it is hard to get tourist attention. Polynesia is so vast, it is hard to imagine what it looks like if you are a space traveler looking down from a spaceship. You will not see any land other than New Zealand and a pinhead-sized Hawaii. My simple and inaccurate lines show a huge triangle that forms Polynesia. Marquesas Island Group is one of the 5 groups of the French Polynesian Group. There are 15 islands that make up Marquesas Island, but geographically they are divided into 2 groups of North and South. The Western world differentiates these as Washington Islands in the north and Mandania Islands to the south. The Marquesas Islands were an accidental discovery in 1595 by Alvaro de Mandania, who was a Spanish explorer and cartographer. He named these islands after a Spanish viceroy of Peru, who was the Makii of Cañete, but the local inhabitants did not have a name for their own island group. These 15 islands were simply called Benua Inanna. I am thinking the translation to Malay language is Di Benua Inanna. Benua in Malay means continent, but can also mean vast land. I would assume if Marquesans speaks Malay, their country would have been called Di Benua Orang Ramai. Imagine the great and mighty seafarers of Nuku-Hiva discovered England and asked the primitive British wearing oak tree leaves, "What is the name of your country?" And the Stone Age British replied, "Our country is called the Land of Man." The history of Marquesas is very vague. Some archaeologists say Marquesans possibly came from West Polynesia, namely Tonga or Samoa, around the 10th century, while some say their history could be 2000 years ago. But according to navigators, that would have been against the flow of the ocean current. To get a better view of the theory is to see the planet as a globe. Samoans and Tongans could not have known if there are any islands 3,500 kilometers away in the northeast direction. The current is from Marquesas to Samoa and Tonga. When the Europeans arrived, they were described as laid back and primitive with tribal wars. They had simple canoes and outriggers. For them to sail east at any degree is a suicide mission. What motivates them to sail northeast and accidentally discover Benua Inanna remains a mystery. If Samoans discovered Marquesas Island, why didn't they go back and forth and have a verbal knowledge of their history that they were from Samoa? Instead, we have myths and legends of their origin, and they themselves had no clue there is an island called Samoa. For all their great seafaring skills that the archaeologists claim that they had 1,000 years ago, why would they tell the Europeans that they were created by god Tikki and they were from the east, which is South America, according to their oral tradition? They did not boast about their great seafaring skills that brought them from Samoa. Neither did Europeans came across any small and flimsy outriggers unfit for roaming the oceans when the Spanish, Portuguese and French were busy roaming the ocean since 16th century. It was here in Fatuiva Island that the famous Thor Heyerdahl lived from 1935 to 1936. He then proposed a theory that Marquesans were from South America, which is what the oral tradition says. In 1947, he made his famous raft called Tikki, which according to him was what the South Americans used based on drawings. But those drawings are very modern compared to any floating crafts 2000 years ago. Peruvians were Stone Age when Europeans arrived, and balsa wood craft used for the ocean is just a theory. Thor Heyerdahl knew exactly where he wanted to go. Unlike Samoans or Peruvians, they had no idea what is beyond the horizon. We just assumed they sailed the ocean because they were looking for more land or civilization. This famous Tikki statue is one of the many statues found in Marquesas Island. This alien-looking statue is holding a war club called kuku on his left hand, which natives made it their symbol. His right hand seems to be holding a head of another alien. What a strange depiction, but even more strange is that no one seems to know what is the story here. In Marquesas Island, Tikki can be a general word for God, or the particular god as shown in the photo. Tikki in other Polynesian islands would mean different things. It can mean the first man, the creator of man, a deity, or a demigod. If Tikki is believed to be the first man, then he is made of clay. If legend says Tikki was a man, then his homeland is Hawaii. One Marquesan legend says that Atia and his wife Owa created man. Isn't that strange that no one is talking about their perilous journey from Samoa or Tonga, if that was their ancestral homeland, which is much easier to return to due to ocean current? Tikki is a very confusing character to me because there are many versions of him in the entire Polynesia. But there are a few things they have in common when depicted in statues. Their eyes are on the side of the head, like a reptile which gave rise to reptilian alien origin. And also their lips are thick lips like African or fish with thick lips. If they do exist, I wonder if they are fish and reptile gene hybrid. Some will say they are aliens with reptilian or mantis origin. Even their oral tradition says they were brought here from another place in a flying craft. What used to be their religion is now a myth. Their rich and detailed oral tradition is now vague legends. This is largely due to the early Christians who were determined to wipe out their history because it is seen as demonic. The Tikki statue is also widely compared to Dogu figurines found in Japan. These figurines are believed to be the product of Jomon period. The Jomon period ranges from 2000 to 14,000 years ago. It is a crazy coincidence that ancient Japanese were also into big round eyes as their favorite choice of design for statues. You can also say that the thin line across the goggle is actually for eye protection, just like the Eskimos did for about 2000 years. Inuit snow goggles are for protecting the eye. It's probably just like aliens landed on Earth wearing sun-protecting goggles. Typically, the sculpture would be inspired by something that they saw, and it is very clear that they saw their gods who made them in their image as having big eyes with 2 hands and 2 legs and significantly elongated head similar to those in Paracas of Peru. If Marquesans carved so many statues and stone monuments of the same character, they should be able to tell us what it is. This Tikki is called Tikki Makii Taua Pepe and is believed to be the process of childbirth. She suffered convulsions at delivery and her childbirth resulted in her death while the child is alive. The word Makii can mean fall. Taua means priest and Pepe means butterfly. Also to take note here, Marquesans believe that when priests die, their souls will be incarnated into large butterflies. This monument has an animal that looks like a 4-legged animal. Archaeologists say this is an ancient dog which is already extinct when the Europeans arrived. I'm a little cautious about this short-legged, big-body, quick-to-extinct dog story. Whatever it is, it sure looks like the one in Sumbawa in Indonesia. Maybe it was an extinct herbivore during the lost civilization period. Many of the statues are depicted in belly-hugging postures and therefore were compared to moai heads of Easter Island. But if they share the common concept, they should know each other very well. Instead, they believe they were alone, and their myths and legends say they were made from clay by God who breathed life into the first man. The megalithic culture is an international culture because belly-hugging posture monoliths can be found at Lori Lindu in Indonesia and Göbekli Tepe in Turkey as well. When you think the moais are limited editions specifically created out of the originality of Rapa Nui inhabitants, then Marquesans must have copied the idea from Rapa Nui. This is unmistakably a moai statue feature where it has sleepy eyes and the nose is big, the lips are thin, the ears are big and the head slightly tilted up like he is looking at the sky. This is a small guy compared to those in Easter Island, but it surely raises the possibility of their Eastern ancestry as what their oral history says. There are many megalithic carvings done by the ancient civilization, but what tools did they use? Marquesans were very much Stone Age inhabitants when the Europeans arrived. Today, they have good metal tools for carving, but they prefer hardwood as material of choice instead. Isn't that strange? Instead of keeping up with ancestral masonry skills, they rather keep their craftsmanship on wood. Something is wrong with the picture. At Nukuiva, there is an interesting megalithic platform. It is called Tohua Koiva archaeological site. It is said to be a platform where locals and nobles were separated, but I highly doubt that was the case. Why would the poor build megalithic platform for the noble? They don't have concept of money and everything was shared in a very tribal and primitive way. I think this structure was already here and were made use based on influential people who occupied higher levels. Those who are more influential get to live on top. I don't see how primitive people has time and motivation to gather big rocks and shape them with rocks to make more or less rectangular shape so that it can be stacked into a platform. But after that, they just want to use half the space for a wooden hut with thatched roof. That doesn't make sense to me. These multiple terraces structures at Nukuiva can also be found at megalithic sites such as Gunung Padang in Indonesia and Machu Picchu in Peru. The unknown ancient builders are making terraces for reasons we will never know, but they are definitely not for agriculture. The entire site feels so sacred it became a place for rituals and ceremonies. That's what primitive people do. There are more than just megalithic statues to see in Marquesas Island. If you snoop around the island like Indiana Jones looking for trouble, there are more mysteries than we can imagine. You can find drill holes on stones with no reasons to be there. They cannot be for pounding grains or breadfruit as they are random and are also found on paths paved with stones. If you think Marquesans drill holes into basalt boulders and rocks, then how about these strange long marks on the stones? The surface itself is smooth like it melted into another form that can be worked on like clay. The area outside the smooth area is clearly rough on the surface. Anyone can tell this is not a natural formation and primitive inhabitants with stone tools got better things to do than scratch a boulder and then make it smooth. Maybe these are marks of tools before they work on a statue. Just like a craftsman testing the sharpness of his chisels, he will make a few strokes on an unwanted piece of wood. There are also other mysterious stones you can find on the islands, such as petroglyphs at Nuku'iva and undeciphered codes and symbols on the rocks. Marquesas Islands are just as mysterious today as it was when first discovered by Europeans. Today, Marquesas Islands have gained a reasonable amount of momentum in tourism. The islands basically jutted out from the ocean and have no reef. Good landing spots are limited. You will be greeted by a huge 12-meter tall Tikki to Hiva. This is not a stone carving. It is an iron sculpture covered in volcanic turf by using shotcrete technique. Well, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this short presentation on Marquesas Island. See you in the next video and have a wonderful day. This is Berniong signing out. Ka ha.